Okay, so in our last session, we were discussing about the YAC program. So we saw that YAC is basically a tool, right? So just like Lex, YAC is also a tool that is used to generate the parser. So we already know what the parser does. The parser basically performs syntax analysis, right? And to perform syntax analysis, it requires grammar. Okay, just like how the lexer requires regular expression, the parser actually requires parser actually requires grammar in order to perform syntax analysis, right? Now when talking about the grammar, we are considering a particular type of grammar which is called as CFG, or a context free grammar, which you know is of the form VTPS, right? So variable terminals productions and start symbol. Okay, so like for example, statement in English, okay, can contain this type of a grammar. So subject, verb, and then object. So this is a grammar, right? So this is a grammar based on which a sentence can be mapped, or it can be considered not a statement. You can consider it as a sentence. So a statement is in for programming language, so we'll call it as a sentence. So sentence in English can be made up of a subject and followed by a verb, and which is followed by an object. Now we already know what can be a subject, right? So, or you have to know what is a subject, you have to know what is a verb, and you have to know what is a object, right? So subject, as we know, it can be a noun or pronoun or something like this. Verb can be any action word, and similarly object can also be a pronoun, right, or a noun. So if you know these things, then it will become easier for you to identify whether a given sentence is as per this particular grammar or not. Okay. Now just like that, here also in our case, we need a context-free grammar. Okay. So context-free because it is obviously not particular to any context. Okay. So I think in our last example, I had considered the context-free grammar for an identifier, correct? So what do you mean by an identifier? So as per the definition, an identifier is something that begins with a letter followed by any number of letters or digit. Okay, so this is the valid definition for a uh, identifier, and we had written a transition diagram for the same, and we expressed it as a context-free grammar, right? So for example, I will write first S. How do we write a CFG for uh, any given grammar? Okay, so for any thing, like for example here, let us start with the simplest form of variable. Okay, so simplest form of variable can be something like this. So yeah, it is containing only one letter. So I can simply write that my variable can be a letter. Okay, so this can be one production that will depict uh, an identifier. Okay, now what is the second variation? So after letter there may be another letter, so I can write another production. Okay, so it can be letter followed by another letter. Okay, so or else it can be something like this, a1. So it is also valid, so I can write letter followed by digit. Okay, now the three productions that I have written, obviously all of these corresponds to the input. These are the simplest form of input, correct? So always we start with the simplest form of input, and then we will try to modify our grammar in such a way that it applies to majority of the input. Okay, like why I'm telling you this is because it can also be of the form ABB. So that does not mean that I will add one more production to my grammar saying it should be letter followed by another letter followed by another letter. So I can't keep on doing this. So we have to generalize. Okay, or we have to write a grammar in such a way that it becomes applicable to majority of the input. Okay, if there are exceptional cases, we write them separately, but it should be in such a way that it should actually apply to majority of the input. So how do we write it? Okay, so if you observe, some things are fixed, right? Some things are fixed, but some things are variable, right? So whatever changes, so we will keep them as or we'll make them as variables, and we will write them separately. Okay, like for example, I can write, so S or my identifier will always begin with a letter. So this is fixed, right? So I write it as it is. Then what is there? Obviously it can be followed by any number of letters or digit. Okay, so it can be followed by other things or letter or digit. So I'll write it as other. Okay, now remember, this other can change. So obviously it can be like B in the second case, or it can be 1 in the third case, okay, or it can be BB in the fourth case, right? So it can actually change. So when something changes, what is that? It is nothing but a variable, right? So it is denoted with V in our context-free grammar. Okay, now let us define this variable. What is this? Okay, so let me write. So S can be letter followed by other, and other can be what? It can be either letter or it can be digit, correct? So it can either be letter or it can be digit. Now let us see whether it serves our purpose or not. So if the input is A, okay, or okay, one more thing, it can be epsilon also. Maybe there, may not be there, right? So if my input is A, does my grammar deduce the input? Check. Okay, so how do we check whether the grammar reduces the input or not? Okay, so we start with the start production. So S derives letter. So obviously A is a letter, so I know that. So what is other? Other, I don't have anything after A, so obviously other is epsilon. Now to understand how I am doing this, let me write a graph here. Okay, I start with S. So S can be replaced with what? S can be replaced with, or it is either letter and other, okay, as per the grammar. Okay, now what is the letter that I have read? I have read A, that is fine. So after A, what is there? Nothing is there. So obviously this has to be eliminated. So to eliminate, do I have a production? So other can be replaced with either letter or digit or epsilon. Okay, so if I replace it with epsilon, then obviously I know that I have the input reduced. Okay, right. So if the input is A, B, can we reduce this input, or can we derive this input through our grammar? Let us check. Okay, as usual we will start with S. Okay, so S can be replaced by either letter or other. So the first letter I am replacing it with A as usual. Okay, but other, of course, now I can't replace with epsilon because there is something that I need to derive, because after A we have got B, right? So obviously the better choice would be to replace other with the letter, right? So we'll replace that with letter, and which is that letter? That letter is B now. So have we got that output AB, or the input AB? Yes, we have. Okay. What if it is A1, right? So same thing applies. So instead of letter, I will be replacing other with digit as per the grammar, and this digit will obviously derive 1. Okay, so A1 can be derived. But what happens if I give ABB? Will it be reduced, or can it be reduced? Let us check. So as usual, we will start with S. So S can be replaced by letter and other. Okay, so obviously this letter I can use to derive A. Okay, what about other? Suppose I see a letter here, so I will write letter. I will write letter. Okay, and this letter I can use it to derive B. Okay, now remember that A and B are terminal symbols, right? They are not variables. So obviously here I get stuck. So I will not be able to derive the next B. Okay, why it is like that? Because our grammar is such. Okay, our grammar just replaces other with only either a letter or a digit or a epsilon. These are my only possible choices. So it's quite obvious that I cannot proceed further in order to parse the input A, B, B. So I have at least derived A and B, but the second B, or which is present in the input, I will not be able to derive because my grammar does not have that provision. Okay, so obviously now it means that we have to make some change to this particular grammar. So what change we can make? Can anyone suggest? What change we can make for that grammar? So right now we have written S derives, I'll just write L, okay, for letter, and O for other. So other can be, I have written letter, bar, I have written digit, bar, epsilon. Okay, I believe you understood why I put epsilon, right? Because the simplest case of an identifier is that it will only have one letter, right? So we have considered that particular case. So in that case, we need to negate this. So to negate this, we have put epsilon. Okay. Uh, so what can be done? So write it as OT. All right, ST for start. Okay, so that we get a distinguish between a variable and a terminal. So can anyone suggest what modification we can do to this grammar in order to match our input? So if I'm having a input with a single letter, it matches. If I have input with two letters, okay, or like two letters or one letter and one digit, that also is matched. Okay, but when I have more than that, like one input, one letter followed by any number of letters or any number of digits or a mix of both, I'm unable to derive my input or I'm unable to parse the input. So what change can be done to this grammar so that we can parse input of the form ABB or A11, okay, or ABC or AB2, something like this, whatever it is. So valid identifier we need to parse. So we have to make a modification to our grammar. So what change we can bring in? Can anyone answer? No? No answers? I think if you observe the grammar, you will be able to come up with the solution. So the grammar looks something like this right now. We just have to modify a little bit. Any idea? No? Okay. Right. So just check here. After one letter, there can be another letter, or after one digit, there can be another digit. Okay, and this can continue. Correct? This can continue. Right? So in other words, a letter can be followed by either a letter or a digit, which is nothing but other. Correct? Because other is nothing but letter, digit, or epsilon. So it may be there, may not be there. Okay. Similarly, after a digit, okay, it can be followed by either a digit or a letter. Okay, so I can simply write like this. Right now, let us check whether it matches the input. So the input considered is ABB. Okay, so we'll start with S. So S can be replaced with what? S can be replaced with L and OT, and this L obviously will give me A. So that's not a problem. So I got A. Okay. Now what is OT? OT is either L and OT. So obviously I have got a letter here. So I will use L and OT. Okay. So this L will derive me B. So we have derived B. Okay. Now once again I have got OT, which is a variable which can be replaced. Now what is OT? So after this I have got one more letter, right? So I will write OT can be another letter and OT or other. Okay, so this will derive me P, right? So now I'm at the end of the input. So obviously there is nothing here. So can I derive nothing from OT to end this parse tree? Because every tree, because this you can see that this looks like a tree, right? So every tree has to end with terminal symbols. So right now I have not got a terminal symbol for this one, but obviously we know that we have a production of the form OT derives epsilon. So I can derive epsilon from this. So I've got my output. ABB is the input. So what if it is AB? Will it work? Previous case. Okay. So if it is AB, then this is what happens. So first one S derives L and OT, and of course second one derives L and OT again. But the third one, third case, what will happen? Directly we will derive epsilon, right? Because after that we have got no input, right? So OT will directly derive epsilon. Now what about A? Does it derive A? Yes, correct. So S derives or S can be L and OT. So this one can give me A, and of course this is not required, so it will directly derive epsilon. Okay. What about A1 or A12, right? So in this case, first we will start with S derives OT as again. Then we will replace OT this time with digit, right? So D and OT. Okay. So this will derive me A. This will derive me 1. Of course, once again, this OT has to be replaced with digit and OT. So this will give me 1 once again. And this one can be nullified with an epsilon. Okay. So all the different types of input we are able to derive with this particular grammar. So this is the grammar or CFG for our identifiers. Okay, this is the grammar for our identifier. Of course, remember that we have a regular expression also for identifying an identifier, but the same can be done with our parser. Okay, so grammar becomes important. That's the point here. So you need to know how to write your CFG, context-free grammar. So I've just shown you a simplest way to write. So obviously start with the simplest form of input and then try to generalize it. Okay, so you'll be able to write CFG for most of the languages. Right, so now that we have understood what is CFG, there is one more thing, we have to understand the structure of YAC program. Okay, because we are supposed to write a YAC program, very, very important for you, even from internal perspective, need to understand how to write a YAC program. Okay, so we mentioned that it's almost similar to structure of lex. So we will have a declaration section. Okay, and declaration section is separated by something, right? So as usual, declaration section is separated by rule section, and of course followed by the rule section we will have the user subroutine section, right? So this is how the structure is. One of the change that is there is after the declaration section you need to mention, okay, tokens. So what is the token that is expected by your YAC? So that you need to specify. Okay, and of course it will be followed by the rule section, right? Now how do we write the rule section? As I said, you have to write the CFG, the grammar. You have to write the grammar, and grammar will contain some action. Okay, our grammar may or may not contain some optional action. Okay, so this is followed by your main function. So the main function, just like yylex, will contain a call to parse. Okay, so this is how we are supposed to write a Yak program. Okay. Now let us express the program that we had considered earlier, which is for identifier. I will express that grammar or use that particular grammar to write a Yak program. Okay. So let us start with writing the Yak program to identify an identifier. Okay, I hope this is visible. So we'll start with the declaration section, right? So percentage open bracket, percentage close bracket. Okay, so you can declare variables here. So maybe I need a header file as usual to print something. So hash include stdio. Okay, I'll just include. So after the end of the rules section, we are supposed to mention what are the tokens that are expected. Okay, so tokens are what? Tokens are nothing but what are given by your lex. So you have to take these tokens from lex. So I will write my first token is letter, second token is digit. Okay, so some name I have given. So if you remember regular definition, right? So obviously you can give some name to your regular expression. So obviously this is also some name that is given to your token. So this is the token that is expected to be returned by your lexer. Okay, so then we will end this section with double percent symbol. Now I am supposed to write the rule. Okay, so how do we write the rule? So we already know the rule. So rules are um, S derives start returns, right? So letter followed by other, and other can be letter, other, or it can be digit and other, or it can be epsilon, right? So this is the grammar. Now same thing I need to write as a rule. Okay, so I'll write it like this. So I'll start with yes, but because we do not have an arrow symbol, okay, so what we do is we specify a semicolon instead. Okay, so we specify a semicolon and we write the rule as it is. So what is rule? So rule is that it can first contain the token letter and it will contain a variable called as other. Okay, this ends my production. Okay, so normally the end of the production is indicated with a semicolon. Okay, it's optional by the way. If you start the second rule, then it means that the first rule has actually ended. Okay, now before that, if you want to take any action, you can specify that. Okay, so like for example, printf value. I'm trying to identify an identifier, right? So I'll just print an action saying that it is valid. So if my parser can actually get back to the start symbol or if the parsing process is complete, then I will write this particular action. Okay, so what is other I need to define because that's a variable, right? So other can be what it can be. It can be letter followed by other. Okay, so to write the second production for the same, you can actually use the or symbol. Okay, or it can be digit and other. Okay, then you can write for or. Okay, but obviously there is no epsilon symbol on your keyboard. Okay, so what we do is we simply write a pipe symbol and then we end that particular production using a semicolon. Okay, I will also end the first production with a semicolon. Got it? So this is how we write the rule. Okay, so S is letter followed by other, which is the first production. Other can be either this or this or this one. So it's the end of my production. Now remember, I have written action for only my topmost productions because I don't want to take any action for these. So why we will understand later. But for now, let us just write actions for only those things which are necessary. Okay. So I have written the rules. So end of the rule section. So main, and then comes our program, which is main. So I'll just use a printf statement here. Enter a valid not valid. We should not ask for valid. Enter an identifier, right? So that, then we will call yy parse. Okay. So if it is a valid identifier, then obviously our uh, parser should be able to parse the input. Okay. So let me copy that yak yy right? So this is the yak program, almost simple, right? But you need to give this token to your yak program. So if you give this token to your yak program, then only it will be able to parse the input based on this grammar. Okay, now how do you get these tokens? Okay, who gives you these tokens? So obviously the token needs to be provided by your lex. Okay, so can we make our lex program to return this letter or digit as tokens? Yes, we can, right? So we know already how to write a lex program. So we will write a lex program in support of this yak. Okay, so how do we write a lex program? You already know. Percentage open bracket, percent close bracket. So declare anything if you require. Dash includes stdio.h, something like this. Now we shall write the rules. Okay, what is the rule? So what is the rule to identify a letter? Can anyone tell? I'm just checking whether all of you are sleeping or you are listening. What is the rule for identifying a letter? A to Z? A to Z, yes. Right? It was simple. A to Z, A to Z. That's it. This is the rule. Or this is the pattern that I'm looking for whenever I am looking for a letter. Okay. So when I see this in the input, I should return what? Return letter, because that's the token that is expected by my yak. Okay. So I will use a return statement here. So return what I should return? The token that is expected. Okay. If you remember our relational operator, right? When we generated the code, we returned what relational operator, and then we returned an attribute, correct? So which is greater than or something like this, right? In a similar way here, I'm returning that I have seen a letter in the input. Okay, so yak will know, okay, it has seen a letter. Now it will ask for give me what is present after that. Okay, so lexer is once again going to look into the input, and then if it is a letter, once again it will return a letter. But if it is a digit, then it has to return a digit. So what rule I can write to match a digit from B section? Anyone can answer? For a digit, what rule I can write? 0 to 9, yes, right? So I can simply write, so if I see anything like from 0 to 9, then quite obvious that we will return. Okay, just a second. Hello. Ah, Okay, so 0 to 9 for digit. So we return that we have seen a digit. Okay. So if you see what happens if you see anything else, like for example, when we give the input, we'll give slash n. So obviously, we will say that it's the end of the input, and how to say that it's the end of the input? We'll just return 0, so that the function returns. Okay, and anything else you can simply ignore. Okay, anything else you can simply ignore. So just write simple. Okay, so this is the rule section for my lex. Okay, so two programs we have written now to identify an identifier using Yak. Of course, one is the Yak program which you saw here, and the second program is the Lex program which you are seeing right now here. Okay, now is it necessary for me to write the main? No. Okay, in my Lex program I need not write main now because main is already written in Yak program, and you know that this YY path automatically will call the Lexer, which is nothing but YY Lex. So you need not have a separate Lex part for your uh, main for your Lex program. Okay, so this is the program, Yak program for identifying an identifier. Okay, so now how to run this program? Obviously, you have to have Yak installed on your system. So if you have saved your file name as let me call it as id with an extension .y. Okay, and let me call the other one as id.l, which is Lex program. Okay, you need to combine both of them in order to execute. So how do we do that, right? So first, as usual, we will compile our Lex program. So dollar $lex or flex, whatever it is, id.l. Okay, so you know what you're going to get out of this. You'll get lex.yy.c. Okay, in a similar way, after this, you can do yak. Okay, so do yak minus d you have to use. This is an option necessary, and followed by the name of the program. Okay, so id.y it is. Okay, so just like how this one is going to produce lex.yy.c, this is going to produce y.tab.c. Okay, y.tab.c. So two C files have been created, one by lex and one by yak. Okay, you can combine these two files and then you can execute or generate the executable. So how do we do that? cc lex.yy.c. Okay, then space y.tab.c minus ln. Okay, then type. Okay, this will produce that a.out file in your Linux. So use dot slash a dot out to get the output. Okay, so this is in your Linux environment. So how do you combine and execute your Lex program? Okay, so run and see in a short while. But before that, let me give you one more work. I would like to get the answer for the same. Okay, so I believe you have followed how to write a Yak program. It's quite simple. Just need to write the grammar for the given language or whatever the problem is, and you need to represent that in the Yak program. So if you are expecting any token, which is in case most of the case, then you are supposed to specify the tokens or return the tokens through your uh, Lex programs. Okay, so any doubt up to this point? Okay, if you don't have any doubts, then I'll give you an exercise right now. Obviously, I believe everybody has a pen and paper. I would like you to try this out. Okay, so write a program, write a Yak program. To be precise. Okay, so write a Yak program, okay, that will parse the input. That will parse the input for the language derived by the grammar a power n b. Okay, So you need to write a program that will pass the input to derive the language that is derived by this particular CFG, or that can be derived by using this particular CFG. Okay, so I'll tell you what is expected. So if you give A, where n is greater than or equal to 0 by greater than or equal to 1, that is okay. So what do you mean by this is, if I type, okay, if it is 0 also, so if I type A, then it's not a valid input. Okay, so let us see what are the languages that are derived by this particular grammar. So it means that one A, or A power n means what? Any number of A's. Okay, where n can be 0. So 0 or more number of A's has to be followed by a B. Okay, so if I give A as the input, is it accepted, or should it be accepted as a part of the language? No. Okay, it should not be accepted, because uh, B should be there as per the grammar. Okay, so if I write B directly, if I write B directly, should it be accepted or not accepted? Okay, it should be accepted, because n can be 0, so which means that A may not be there. A power 0, which is nothing but 1. So obviously I will not write 1 there. So it means that only B present. So it should be accepted. So should AB be accepted? Should AB be accepted? Yes, AB be accepted, right? Because 1A can be followed by 1B. So if that is when n is equal to 1. Okay. When n is equal to 2, what is the sentence that is derived by this particular grammar? So we'll get 2 A's followed by 1B. Okay, so B is fixed. Obviously A is changing, right? So whenever I see a small a or a capital A in the input, okay, just for our convenience, okay, so let us uh, write the tokens as TA and TB. Okay, so tokens are TA and TB. So obviously these two things are supposed to be written by your Lexer, but whenever you see these tokens, then obviously you need to check whether it is as per this particular grammar or not. Okay, so this is accepted, this is accepted. What about BA? Is it accepted? Because we have got 1A and 1B. Okay, so this is not accepted, because A should be followed by B. Okay, B should not be followed by A. So obviously this is not accepted. What about this one? Should it be accepted? A, B? Yes, it is, right? So because in this case n is equal to 3 and all A's are followed by 1B. Okay, in short, this grammar, this particular grammar is for accepting any number of A's followed by a single B. Okay, so can you write an YAC program and its corresponding Lex program for the same? I'll give you, now it's 10:19. I'll give you 3 minutes. Okay, by 10:21, I would ask anyone from A section and B section to show me what is the answer for this. Okay, so 3 minutes. Okay, so time's up. I believe given enough time, and some answers are here from A section. About B section, no answers. Okay. Can anybody from B section just put the grammar that can be used? B section students. Hello. Okay, I think I'll stop the presentation for B section students then, and I'll continue for A section. Is it okay? Okay, I got an answer at least. So A is B and NL. What is NL? New line. Okay. Right. A or B. Okay. Two answers I've got from the regular students. They answer regularly. I have observed. Others are not even trying. I think they will directly try in internals this time, which is good, by the way. But the problem is you will not find it on Google. That's the problem. That will be the problem. Okay, anyhow. So what was the uh, program about? It was about parsing the input that is derived by the grammar a power n b. Okay. As I said always, start with the simplest form of input. Okay. So what the simplest form of input? Simplest form of input is that is accepted is b. Correct, with no a's, because in this case n is equal to 0. Right. So when n is equal to 1, the input will become AB. This is the second simplest form. When n is equal to 2, okay, so it will become AAB. Right. So let us take the first two simplest form of input. Right. So how can I write a production for this? So S statement can be, right, just B. It can derive just B. Or statement can be AB. Right. So this is the simplest form of input that the grammar can accept. So if I write this grammar in my YAG program, and if I give the input as AB or B, then both of them are going to be accepted. But the problem is, what if the input is AAB? What if the input is 3 A's followed by 1B? Will it be able to recognize it or not? Right? So obviously it is not going to recognize, because the production only has terminal symbols here. Right? So when you have terminal symbols, obviously things cannot change. So you need to introduce a non-terminal symbol, right? So where we can make a modification. So obviously the last position, which is nothing but B, this is fixed, right? So what can change? The first position can change. So I have to write a variable here. So how do I write a variable here? Okay, so I will write this name as what can we write? Uh, Something. I'll write other. Okay, so you can give any name. I'm just giving other. Okay, so let me write what is other now. So if I have to uh, consider the same grammar for this input, okay, so either here nothing should be there, which will match B, or one A should be there, correct? So I'll write other can be either A or epsilon. Okay, now remember, this is similar to what we have written above. Okay, but this time we have introduced a new variable. Okay, Now let us see whether this grammar works for this input. Okay, so if it is just B, then I will start with yes. Okay, I'll start with yes, and obviously yes will be OT, and this will be B, correct? So obviously only B should be derived. B is already there. Okay, so I will use TATB because they are tokens, right? They're not actual characters, they are tokens. So they're supposed to be tokens. So I'll write TATB. Okay, so TB. So this token can be deduced to small b. But what about this? Obviously this should not be there. But we have a production of the form epsilon. So I get only b. So input is passed. Okay. What about AB? So I'll start with yes. Okay, S can be other, or it can be token B. Okay, so this can be used to derive B, I know. So this other can be either token A or epsilon. So what do I want? I want a token A to be deduced. So TA, and this can give me A. So I've got that okay. But what if I give AB, AB, right? Will it be able to parse? As you can observe, after one replacement, I have got terminal symbol. So obviously I have got no other way to go, no further way to go. So here I need to make some modification. Okay. So what modification? We did it in the last case also, correct? When I wanted letter or digit, I just used this recursively, right? So just write OT. Okay, or else we can also write OTTA, no problem. Okay, OTTA bar epsilon. So what is the grammar now? So grammar now is S can be other or TB should be there, and other can be TA followed by other only, or it can be epsilon. Okay, now let us check whether this grammar will work for 2 A's followed by 1 B. So we'll start with yes. So S can be replaced by what? I have got only one production. So obviously it can be replaced with other and TB. So obviously this TB will give me B. Okay, what is other? I have got two options. Either I have to use this or I have to use this. So since I have got something before B, I have to use the first production, right? So I will use TA followed by other. Okay, so we know that this one will give me A. So I have got one A already. I've got one B already. So I need to derive one more A. So what can I do? Can I replace this other? Yes. With what I have to replace it with? I have to replace it with obviously this production, because that will give me another A. So TA followed by other. So this will give me A. So have I got the input I am expecting? Yes. A, B. Now what to do with this one? Obviously this can be nullified by using the epsilon production. Okay. So like this we can actually write a grammar for a power nb. Okay, now as with your answers, most of you what you have written, so you have written s derives a bar b, a or b, that is fine, and a derives small a capital A bar epsilon. Okay, so you can try this out. If it works, then it's fine. I didn't understand what is this NL. I guess it is new line. Okay, but if that's the case, this is or this one will give us A S B, right? So equal number of A's followed by, okay, what is this? Yes, it is yes A. Okay, even this can be tried. No issues. Okay, so two grammars are there. If you are looking into it, you can try this out, or else you can try the one that I have given. Okay, let us write a program for this now. Okay, I'll write through the rule section. Okay. So percent. So okay, no, sorry. I'll also write the tokens. Okay. So percentage, open bracket, percentage close bracket. So hash include. You write the hash include statement here. Okay, then you have to write what is the token. Okay. Okay, I think I have the program. I'll show you that only. Okay, as you can observe here, uh, declaration. I hope this is visible. Token, what is expected? Token A and token B. Now these two things are supposed to be coming from your uh, legs. Okay, so we'll start with yes. So what is yes? Yes can be any number of years. So we'll call it as vary. I had called it as other, but here there is a different name. That's it. Okay, and it should be followed by TB. So this is the end of the first production. And what is vary? Vary is another variable, right? So vary can be either vary or TA bar epsilon. So for epsilon, you just simply write a pipe and end the production through semicolon. Okay, so this is the grammar that we have written. So what about main function? Obviously, main function does not have just call parse, and if it parses completely, then we will print that it is valid. Okay. Now one more thing here to remember is this function error. Okay, just like how we had added parse, you also need to add this function error. Okay, now what this function does is, see if any error occurs while parsing the input. Okay, like for example, if I consider this grammar, s derives var a and tb, and var a can be var a ta bar epsilon, right? So this is the grammar. And if the input is ba, okay, if the input is ba, right? So can we parse this input ba, or should it be valid? Of course, I know that it is not valid because A's should be followed by B's. N number of A should be followed by B's. B should not be followed by A. So obviously, I know that this is a invalid input, right? But how parser is going to come to this conclusion, right? So it will obviously start the parsing process with start symbol yes. So now it knows that it can only replace yes with only one production, which is var A followed by TV. Okay, right? So obviously this B can be derived. This B can be derived. So no problem. But what about A? After this, there is nothing. Correct? So obviously we don't have a production that is going to match or derive this particular input. So obviously we cannot proceed further. So now we are in an error state. So when the parser is in an error state, it will automatically call a function called as error. Okay, it will call a function called as error. So inside this function, you can write error routines. Okay, you can write error routines. Now, what is this error routine? Error routine is how do you handle this error? Okay, like for example, you may terminate the program. Okay, printing some message, you can terminate the program. So that's what we have done here. If in any case we come across an error, then we will print that we have seen an invalid input and we will exit from the program. Okay, so remember this function error, which is a error handling function for our Yak. Okay, so I had to add this in my this program also. Got it? Okay, now what about the lex part? The lex part is as usual simple, right? So yeah, because I'm only typing small a or capital A in the input, right? So either if it is small a or capital A, what we need to return? We need to return that we have seen token A. Okay, if it is small b and capital B, we need to return token B. Okay, and of course these two cases are for end of the input and other input. So dot return text of 0. I believe already have told you what is text. It's a string, right? So text of 0 means obviously the first character, which is matched by this one, is going to be returned as it is. So we do not want to handle it. We will just give the uh, identified character or lexeme as it is to our parser. Okay, and one more thing here is this y.tab.h. This needs to be included in your Lex program. Okay, this is the header file that will be generated by the Yak. Okay, so when you that option -d, okay, that's what I said. When you compile your Yak program, you use that Yak -d, right? So Yak -d. So this will generate that header file, which is used as a cross reference between Lex and Yak. Okay, so that's why you need to include this header file. So whatever Lex parses, it will be added to this header file, which will later on be referred by your parser. Okay, so this is the program for a power n b, and this is also a program in your laboratory session, by the way. Okay, this is one of the easiest program in your laboratory session. So I have also covered that particular part. Okay, so this is how we write a YAC program, right? It's almost similar to the structure of Lex, but there are few differences and few additions. Like token is new, and writing grammar is new. Okay, and obviously calling functions are different. Like here we are calling YY We have an addition of one more function called as YY and inclusion of an header file in our Lex program, which is y.tab.h. Okay, so with this you can generate a parser using YAC. Any doubts here with regard to Lex and YAC? Okay, practice Lex and YAC programs. I'll give you some assignments also. You will look into it, and if you do get any doubts, then you can get it clarified before the IA, because that will be included in intervals. Okay. So if you have any doubts, you can post it here. Don't have any doubts, I will take the attendance. Just wait on for a few seconds. Okay, B section students can leave and join the other session. A section students, just wait a second, I will take the attendance. Okay, done. Okay, I'll also share the attendance sheet. Do fill that out. Okay, thank you, sir.